Hey everybody, this is Perch, and it's New Comic Day, and today there is a new comic, a Nubia Real One by L. McKinney and Robin Smith, and this is a YA graphic novel. At least it's being pitched in certain areas as a YA graphic novel. I can't quite wrap my head around that one, and we're going to get to it, kind of as a crux of this video. But the comic, for what it's worth, does say there's a content note, or they don't say trigger warning, but there's a content note very early on. It's kind of hidden on the credits page that talks about the following story includes depictions of racial injustice, sexual harassment, police brutality, and an active school shooter. To anyone impacted by the issues, we encourage you to use our list of resources at the end of the book for support. All right. Okay, so first things first. I want to explain two pieces. One of which you may not know, or I don't really say. But I'll get to the easier one first. I like Nubia as a character. Nubia predates to the 70s. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh, look, they made Wonder Woman black. This was, again, something that happened quite a long time ago in DC. I like the idea. I remember at the time thinking it was pretty cool because it was adding to her mythology. It was a twist to kind of another person in there who could have been Wonder Woman and could have actually, if fate had taken a different path, this is what it was. She was an antagonist for a bit, and then she became a hero, and there wasn't a lot of Nubia, though. It's not like we're talking hundreds of issues of Nubia are out there. Fairly unknown character, but I'm glad that DC is using Nubia more in the regular omniverse continuity where everything matters. I'm not sure if this book matters. Does Nubia, the Real One YA graphic novel exist in the omniverse with everything else? I don't know. I don't know. But I like they're going to do things with Nubia. She's going to become, I think, Queen of the Amazons while Hippolyta is off running around with the Justice League and Wonder Woman is busy dead. So, I think this is good that they're doing the character. I have this built-in piece, and this may just be me, but I'll throw it out there. I dislike that the big two in particular have 60 years of stories and continuity and characters to play with. And sometimes they act like they've never had a black character before. And so it's like, well, we gotta invent some black characters because we've never had them before. And it's like, no, the comic book publishers, especially the big two, have dealt with progressive topics, both on the creator side and on the character side for many years, long before other forms of entertainment in a lot of cases. I mean, there's a lot of talk about transgender writers today. Rachel Pollack was doing this in the 90s with Doom Patrol. And, for whatever reason, we kind of ignore her and we move on to more recent creators. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get a spotlight too. It's just if you're doing things that were way ahead of their time decades ago, why wouldn't you shine a spotlight on that once in a while? It's like an interview with Nancy Collins, one of the first writers by a month. By 1 month would have been the first female writer of an ongoing series at DC. Pretty cool. Maybe talk about that a little bit more. I don't know. I think there's some good, things to take credit for that happened that that we kind of ignore now because it has to happen within the last 5 years. Despite the linearverse, it has to happen in the last 5 years. I joke. But anyway, so when I see like James Rhodes come back, when I see Vixen come back, when I see these characters have an appearance, I'm happy because I like that we're tapping into that stuff. I do like that we're dealing with Jon Stewart over in Green Lantern, and Jon Stewart's a cool character. I want to see more of Jon Stewart. I don't think you don't have to erase the white characters in order to shine a spotlight on them. In many cases, they can be side by side, and in many cases, they are. It works out. But I like Nubia. Legitimately, I can say with some cred there, I like the character. I like what they've done. The other thing I want to say is probably may come as a surprise to some people on this channel. I try and do these shows from a reasonable take, and the take I tap into is a store owner, a retailer take. And the first rule of being a retailer is, figure out how to sell this product, figure out how to sell the comic, figure out how to have a reasonable viewpoint on things. You can't just run around screaming all the time, or you're not going to run a profitable business. You need to have some balance. So when I look at these things, they may offend me, they may anger me, I may think this is garbage, I may have these kinds of emotions, but then the goal is to have an intelligent take on the property and realize property is not about me. It's about figuring out who it's for, how it could sell, what are the angles around it, giving some commentary around it, rather than shoving my emotions down your throat. That's not what I do. So that's just me. I tend to, especially on this channel, it's less emotion, more logic. It's what I try and bring to the table. That doesn't mean I don't, dislike or like things. And so I'll say something I don't normally say is this Nubia book is terrible. It's a terrible book. It is not for me. Underlined, it's not for me. I think it fails on a ton of different levels. I think the story is either painfully bad or painfully cliche, and oftentimes both. I think the artist in this case, who's Robin Smith, has a really awesome story, and I like Robin Smith. I'm pretty sure I've met Robin Smith. I definitely like her background and her story. Wonderful person, by and large. That as far as I've known, I will admit, first to admit, I have no idea if there's social media shenanigans going on, but I think the artist is a very, very nice person. But this art is not. It just, I do not care for this art. For me, other people may. Cool. This art is not for me, hands down. This book deals with a lot of topics in a extremely tone deaf, angry, hateful way. It I don't know. It deals with really serious. You remember those videos I did where if you're going to deal with social topics, you need to approach them with some nuance. You need to be careful because you can really do a poor job of it. This comic is almost a poster child for why, you should be careful, or at least think twice about doing a lot of, social topics in comics, because it could come out like this. That's my personal opinion. Okay? It doesn't have to be yours, and I don't often, go into that. If I sound very calm, so I'm trying to be calm. I don't want to splatter my emotions all over everywhere. It's just, this is bad. This offends me in a way that, Iron Man 2020 doesn't. And that comic was terrible. Okay. So I now put all that stuff on the shelf, and I get to the business side of things about this comic. And this is hopefully a take you're not hearing. I suspect by the time this video is out, there's going to be 5,000 videos on this comic, because it's begging for it in a lot of cases. It's built for a lot of critique, and it's going to get just hammered. But I'm going to put on the business hat now, which probably isn't a critique that you're going to hear, because when I see this, like any comic, as a retailer, as somebody who's trying to sell stuff, as somebody who's interested in marketing, my first thought is, all right, how do we sell this? Who is the audience for this? Can I assess it? This isn't something that the publisher will ever tell you. So as a retailer, who's the audience for this? Well, okay, the retailer is saying this is YA. I'll say hands down, this is not a YA book. I don't know why it got categorized this. It's got, when you're dropping the F-bombs throughout the book, that is not going to play well for YA. When you have a school shooter, which this does, that's not going to play well with YA. What are you expecting Scholastic to put this out? Scholastic is not going to distribute books with school shooting in schools. That's not going to happen. Are some librarians going to buy this? I don't know. In a school, I think this is going to cause this is going to cause trouble. Okay. I don't think this is YA. I think this is kind of millennial 20s. I think that's what this probably is. It's people who are in their 20s who are interested in kind of topics of racism and bigotry, and conflated with current events. That's pretty much what we've got here, and that's what this book is. If you this book features a sequence where there's Black Lives Matter protests because a black trans woman, I believe, was murdered and by a policeman, I think. And so there's the big protest. In the protest, the evil white bullies show up, and they throw bricks and they firebomb. They throw Molotov cocktails at the police in an attempt to make the black people look guilty. So the police will shoot them, which the police do. So all of this kind of stuff, it's you have to be, I don't know. I look for clues. I look at the forward. I look at the kind of the summary of what they're trying to do here. And what they're trying to do here, again, being critical about it, is they're trying to talk about a common person, a person who, you know, is being told that they are not they're not anything special. In fact, being told maybe that they're bad for their race, or their, you know, the main character Nubia, she has two moms, so that probably plays into it as well. It's a lesbian couple that's raising this girl. And so it is, you know, it's for people who are kind of, the world is telling them they're bad and that they can be heroes and that they need to find their courage and they can stand up and be courage. That's kind of the point here. So in theory, you know, it says in the foreword, this is the book I needed as a teen and the one I need now. Witty, powerful, and revolutionary. Book reminds us that not everyone gets an invitation to be a hero, but everyone deserves to be one. Okay. So I don't know that it succeeds here. I mean, there's a classic kind of bully, and the bully does bully things, and the girl, Nubia, has powers, and she doesn't understand them, and she likes a boy, and the boy is awkward and at least looks a little bit more like a girl, because and thus that's why. So the boy is bullied too, and so she's trying to figure out where to go, and the challenge is, as a story, I'd have trouble selling this to somebody. I'd have trouble finding that audience. I'm not saying that audience doesn't exist. It's just going to be tricky figuring out who that audience is. I'd be leery of selling it to a teenager, bluntly, because more often than not, you know, you sell comics to a teenager that has people getting shot and killed in them, the parent's going to come in later and want to shut you down. That's a reality. Should that be the way it is? I mean, probably not, but life's unfair, just like the book. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to take you through my thought process. How can I get this book into the hands of other people? People who are interested in current events, supporters of Black Lives Matter and protests, probably would be interested in this book. They're going to want to, you know, it's going to reflect some of their narrative and their life. Okay. But again, I think you're probably aiming this at people in their 20s who are, you know, not necessarily regular comics readers, because it doesn't read like a comic. It doesn't, you know, function like a regular graphic novel, either in the art or the narrative. It's you've got to be really, really convinced of a certain atmosphere, because otherwise, you know, you're going to see things like, you know, Nubia is the hero, but, you know, the bully is doing bully things and she's threatening to punch the bully in the face again, and he's going to try and get some people murdered. I mean, it's an ugly story. So I think you have to believe that this is kind of the reality, that, you know, protests are often interfered with by, you know, racist bullies that are wanting to incite violence. I mean, again, I'm just saying you got to match it up with an audience, and this book's going to be hard to match up with an audience. I say this just as clinically as possible. This book is not going to sell major volumes of copies. It would have a lot of trouble being put into a Target or a Walmart. They're not going to carry this. If they do, it's going to be a matter of time before somebody steps in and says, you know, hey, having this book where, you know, guys are throwing punches at women and people are getting shot in the streets and you got a school shooter, they're not going to go for that. The art style is going to struggle to pull people in. It is. This is not a popularized art style. Now, you may read it and love it and say, this is the art for me, and that's cool. You know, good for you, honestly. But it's not a super popular art style. So we've got a more niche art style combined with a more niche story told in kind of a YA approach, but clearly not aimed at YA in a way that stores would carry. And our audience here is, you know, very small. That's where we come to. I look at this and I feel sad more than anything. I feel just sad. I don't feel angry. I don't feel hopeful. I just feel like sad, because it's clear that the creators involved and the, you know, Michelle Wells, who lost her job shortly after this thing was kind of greenlit. It's clear they're trying to tell a story. They're trying to tell a story that matters to them. I don't believe this person is just, with no passion trying to put this book out. They believe, that this is what's going on, and it feels very hateful to me, but they believe that they're telling a hopeful, optimistic story. I believe that. It won't go anywhere. And so I said this in a video a while back, and some people got really agitated about it, that if you want to land social topics, you've got to do it well, or nobody's ever going to see it. And then have you won anything? And several people wrote back saying, hey, it doesn't matter if it's successful. It doesn't matter if it sells. If even one person sees it, it's a success. And I want to say, yeah, I don't think so. One person seeing it is not a success, particularly if the one person seeing it is somebody who's already in. They're already aligned with this idea, with all the things that are going on in this book. If they already believe all of it, what you haven't converted any hearts. You haven't changed any minds. You haven't enlightened anything. You're preaching to the choir. In this case, a choir of one. That's not success. Will this book inspire people to make more books? I mean, I guess. I hope so. I want some good to come out of this. I'm being honest. I think you can come in here and you can call me disingenuous. You can downvote everything else. I want comics to matter, and I want them to go somewhere and do something. I want them to grow. I want it for my own pocketbook when I sell them, but I want this business to be strong. I don't want stuff to go out there and just die in silence. And this book, hopefully they're going to do the PR rounds and everything else, but I'm noticing there's not a lot of attention on this book. It makes me think that the company's quietly trying to just distance itself from it as quickly as they can. It is weird. I mean, you've chosen right now to put this book out the last week of Future State, and in 1 week, I think in Infinite Frontier, we're going to see Nubia in a character in the Omniverse, running the Amazons, and it's like, again, there's some brand confusion here. But is there really? Because how many people are going to pick up Nubia and also pick up DC Comics? And in which case, once again, what are you doing? I don't know. I've talked this thing to death. It's a weird book. On a personal level, I really dislike it. As a retailer, I'm struggling to figure out who buys it, and unfortunately, it's like you take your audience, you just start carving off places where it won't sell, and you get to a very, very tiny place. And so when I get books like this, I'm left with just, now what? Where do we go from here? And I honestly have no idea. I mean this, again, very, very honestly. And by the way, I fully anticipate, because of the videos that are going to come off this, there's going to be a free-for-all on Nubia. People are going to absolutely hate and trash this book. But I would like to hear from you if you read it and liked it. I'm not doing it to jeer you. You're not going to show up in a video. I'm not going to prank you. I want to hear from you, because I honestly, legitimately, hopefully I've convinced you. I, as a retailer, am trying to understand the market for this stuff. I'm trying to understand where it matches. When I went to get my MBA, there was an exercise in class, and you've seen it represented in movies, of sell me this pencil, sell me this pen, sell me this glass of water. It's very common that you go through these exercises saying, here's something that either seems commonplace or maybe like a hard sell it to me. Figure out how you sell this. And so that's how I approach this stuff. That's true at all my videos. I look at stuff and I think, how do I find the piece in this to talk up, to actually make some value out of it? And this one's I'm just being honest. This one's a big struggle. I can sell Iron Man 2020 easier than this. And that's tough. Anyway, if you did like it, please let me know. And if you don't want to put it in the comments, I get it. Shoot me an email, please. I'd like to hear from you. Honestly, I will treat you with respect. More respect than I think this book treated its readers. Anyway, like and subscribe. Hey, reach out to me. If you do decide to reach out to me, awesome. My contact information is in the description of this video. You can find me there. Whatever you're reading, thanks for listening.